Morning Becomes Entertainment is a really fun episode of Frasier, and this is the first time I'm rewatching this since watching the reboot, which makes it a little bit different. So there will be spoilers for this episode, but I'm also going to spoil, I guess, what happened to Frasier between the ending of this season and the beginning of the reboot, so that's just worth bearing in mind. I'm basically going to say what happens with his career, because I think it makes this episode a little bit more interesting. Morning Becomes Entertainment is the 19th episode of the 7th season of Frasier. This is directed by Pamela Fryman, and of course, there will be spoilers from now as I go through things chronologically and share some thoughts. And it starts off with Frasier down at Cafe Nervosa. Martin and Daphne are there. Roz comes in, and it turns out they want to pull them off air for a week to try this other new show. And Frasier thinks that they're just doing this because it's time to negotiate contracts. And we'll come back to that in a moment. Martin needs his eyes checked. And when we're back at the apartment sometime later, he's now wearing glasses. And I didn't recognise that they were women's glasses. That's kind of the running joke in this. I just thought they were very flamboyant, very interesting glasses. They're very large and green, and they don't look bad, but certainly it's not the kind of thing I'd expect Martin to wear, and they definitely stand out. But apparently they're women's glasses. Bebe then comes over, and then Niles comes over, and it turns out that Bebe is wanting Frasier to host this mid-morning chat show with Roz, and Frasier is hesitant, and Niles said that it will turn him from, and I quote, psychiatrist to dancing bear. And when he said that, I could not help but laugh. Because, and this is of course the spoiler for the reboot, it's not actually anything that happens in the reboot, but Frasier ends up getting his own TV show. And some of it is a little bit like what we see in this morning show. So I just found Niles' comment to be very, very funny. And it's time for the first TV show. They go down to the studio. Frasier and Roz are going to do this. Roz is late because she's sick and delirious. She tries to take her shirt off thinking it's a jacket. And Frasier realises, well, I can't do this alone. It's a chat show. Who am I meant to chat with? And Bebe is going to do it. And Frasier realises Bebe could do this, but then I think it was the showrunner said she needs to be likeable, and Frasier instantly said, can I at least keep the suit? Realising there was no way Bebe was going to be likeable, but it's time. They don't really have any other opportunity, so they go out there, and I think very quickly it was easy to see that this is more of a Bebe gig than a Frasier gig. Frasier starts talking the way he does on the radio, and it's maybe a little too dry for a mid-morning chat show. And Bebe realises this and jumps in with a joke, and they have a great rapport, and it seems like Bebe is a natural at this kind of gig, and she does a great job. And the studio audience, we get to see them. They didn't need to do that. They could have absolutely done this without the added effort of showing a live studio audience. I thought it was a really nice touch. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm wondering if that's actually the studio audience from the Frasier recording. It could be, I don't know. If anybody does know, please feel free to let me know. And Frasier ends up doing a Sean Connery impression and various other impressions, and then they're doing a segment with Chef Frasier, which I thought was quite a good segment for Frasier. Frasier likes to cook. He has a very refined palate, and then he's doing it alongside Bobo the cooking chimp. And I genuinely think Frasier had fun, because they're starting to cook, and the chimp just starts to throw food at Frasier. And he genuinely seems like he's enjoying himself, and it was really nice to see. And we're then back at the apartment, Roz is there, and then we go back down to... Not much happens in that scene other than Roz realising that if Frasier stays with this TV show, what's going to happen to them? And Frasier doesn't think that this is ever going to be a problem. And then he goes down to the studio for the final TV show, and that's when he realises that Roz's fears might have been right, because Bebe seems to get really excited when the TV show actually wants to keep them on air for longer. The ratings have been amazing. They want them to carry on hosting it, and Frasier thinks actually this is what Bebe had in mind. And then Bebe hands him his new contract, and it seems like she did the negotiation, so maybe it wasn't her plan all along. I think it was her plan all along, but she also negotiated the contract for Frasier, because obviously a better negotiation also means more money in her pocket. So I feel like she was putting eggs in both baskets. I do believe that had Frasier said, yes, bearing in mind she wasn't even supposed to be on air, but I think over time she really took to this, and as we see, she really thoroughly enjoyed this, and I have to say, she's very, very good at it. So I think, yeah, maybe she did the negotiation for Frasier because she wants him to have a good deal, but also maybe secretly hoping Frasier would do the TV show as well. And thankfully, Frasier is considering it. He loves the applause, which again, that moment there really makes what happens between this season, or this show rather, and the reboot much more believable, because we see him getting a taste of that. And that makes it much more believable when it happens much later on. And Niles is there in the wings and helps him realise that the radio show is the better gig for him. And then Niles says to him, "It's your last show, get out there." And he gives him that little bit of encouragement. And it was a really, really sweet moment. And then at the very end, Bebe and Frasier hop on the back of a donkey and ride out into, I couldn't say into the sunset, they ride out in front of the cameras, and it was good fun. And the final scene is Martin at Cafe Nervosa, and a woman comes in and sits opposite him, and she has his glasses, and he very quickly puts his glasses away. So not a bad ending. I really enjoyed this one. I think it's really good fun, and I feel like it's even more entertaining once we know what we know about the future of Frasier's career. So in itself, at the time, it would have been great fun. And I don't know if I had this episode in mind when they decided to create Frasier's own TV show, if they were kind of looking back at his reaction here, but I feel like it was a good decision. It made sense, and this episode was really great as well. So needless to say, I thought Morning Becomes Entertainment was a really good, fun episode of Frasier, and now, more so than the first time I watched it, I'd say it was a pretty perfect experience.